HogvilleNET YouTube Live. This is my post game. I'm Kevin McPherson. Arkansas went on the road. The Hogs been playing really well on the road. 2-game winning streak on the road. Then had a couple of games at home, split those against one of the best teams in the country, Alabama. Then had a sloppy performance in a 12-point win over LSU. And the sloppiness just carried over and followed the Razorbacks down to College Station. Number 8, Texas A&M. By the way, the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee released some of its top seed lines, the top 16 today. So A&M's ranked 8th in the AP poll, but 6th in the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee's pecking order. So on that 2 seed line, if the season ended today. So this is a tough environment to play at. It's a really good team. Arkansas loses by 8, 69-61. The Hogs jumped out 8-0, then had a 9-0 run by the Aggies. And this game was kind of back and forth. The Aggies actually led most of the way. It was either a 1-possession lead or a 2-possession lead. Every once in a while, A&M would go up 7, and Arkansas would make a run and get right back in it. Tied it, I think, 2 or 3 times in that second half. And then A&M just had an extra gear in terms of getting to the finish line, making the fewest mistakes, and capitalizing on Arkansas's mistakes. I think it was a combination of 2 things: fewer mistakes by the Aggies, and then knowing how to capitalize on Arkansas's mistakes. At 69-61, Arkansas has now lost 2 of its last 3 games, count the Bama loss. If you go back to the 0-5 start, Arkansas's 4-3 since that point. And it's one of those situations where we keep saying, if this Arkansas team can just figure out a way to not have multiple game losing streaks, you might lose back-to-back this time around because you're going to be at number 1 Auburn in the midweek. You're back on the road against the top-ranked team in the country. But that's not, that's not a death knell for this team. Arkansas has been on the bubble after having this recent surge, if you want to call it that. I still call it that. And in fact, got on the right side, the pleasant side, the good side of the bubble. And ESPN Joe Lunardi's most recent bracketology update just yesterday, Arkansas as the 3rd team on the last 4-in list as an 11 seed play-in if the season ended then. So today's loss against this level of competition, A&M's 12th in net, by the way, coming into today. And the NCAA, again, the selection committee has them projected as the 6th best team overall for the tournament right now. And so this may not even move Arkansas to the bad part of the bubble if Lunardi puts out another update, which he will no later than Tuesday. He might do one sooner. He sometimes updates through the weekend as games are played. Sometimes he waits a few days. But Arkansas may still find have a way to still be one of the teams in on this last 4-in type of situation, just because of the quality of this quad 1 loss. Now, Arkansas dropped to 3-8 in quad 1 games. All 3 wins were away from home. Arkansas was primed to pick up a win here. The strength of this A&M team is that it's what it always is under Buzz Williams. The Aggies are always powerful on the offensive glass, and they make you pay by either getting to the foul line after all that physical play to get those offensive rebounds, or a putback, second chance opportunities. Sometimes they get kickouts for 3 off of that. We didn't see a whole lot of that today. Arkansas was up to the challenge on the road against a team. Arkansas hung on the glass. But where Arkansas basically lost this game was in the turnover game. The Hogs forced 3 early Aggie turnovers to take that 8-0 lead. And then after that, A&M just punished Arkansas on its own miscues. Most of Arkansas's turnovers were preventable, but poor decision-making, poor reads, and just errant passes, soft passes, trying to make long passes with no straight line, speed on the ball. Just soft, lazy passes, a lot of them. So I really wasn't sure why Arkansas didn't make adjustments, because the game plan coming in was great. Arkansas matched A&M when you looked at really rebounding, and technically Arkansas didn't match the Aggies. They lost by a very narrow margin against the best rebounding team in the country when you look at it from an offensive perspective. And then so the turnovers were the story of the game. +7, as it turns out, for A&M, 17-10. But the Aggies used that for a +15 advantage in points off turnovers, 22-7. Well, when you stay in the game throughout and you finally lose by 8, and you were minus 15 from the Razorbacks' perspective in points off turnovers, that was your undoing. Everything else, Arkansas was right there, just about. And so this is a situation where if you go back to games against early in the year, the second game of the season against Baylor in Dallas, I was there to cover that game, against Illinois, some of these other games in league play, but you can go back and look at Arkansas's self-inflicted wounds in games that they could never get over the hump, and you thought maybe should get over the hump. I mean, give A&M credit. That's a really good team. I said this on Drive Time Sports last night on my segment on radio when I was looking at the SEC and the teams that are ranked in the top 10 right now. Obviously it's 1 Auburn, 2 Alabama, 3 Florida, Tennessee at number 5, A&M at number 8. And I really think that Bama, Auburn, and probably Florida are on another level. Tennessee's probably the next team I would say has a formula for a Final Four. I have not thought this about this A&M team. This A&M team looks like a Sweet 16 kind of team to me. And if they get just a great matchup bracket and there's an upset or something happens where they have a cleaner path, there's a potential for this team to get to a Final Four, but they don't look like a Final Four team going into it to me, but they're really good. They're just right outside of that. All right, in my opinion. Now, NCAA tournament, again, selection committee sees it as the 6th best team, which tells you, well, that shouldn't, if that's correct, that's an opinion. That's one take on it. Then this is close to being a Final Four team. I don't quite see the Aggies that way, but I do see the ingredients there. They get a lot of veteran guys, some of the same old names that have really hurt Arkansas in the past. Guys like Wade Taylor IV. They need to change his Roman numerals after his name to the 10th, because that's how many years he's played in college. He's Wade Taylor the 10th. It feels like that. Anders Garcia, who's, I mentioned the Baylor game early in the year. That undersized 3-4 guy, Norshad Omier, that just destroyed Arkansas, really had a monster game, double machine, but using his leverage, using just smart little moves, ball fakes, using his pivot, getting Arkansas's bigs out of sorts. This is what Anderson Garcia, who's also a big-time rebounder, it wasn't as much about his boards today, but it was about the things he did to destroy Arkansas. Just made heady plays and attacked Arkansas's bigs, got them off their feet, got them out of position, got leverage on him. And when he was in the game, A&M was that much better for it. He was a box plus 27 in 25 minutes when he was on the court. So those two guys, Wade Taylor does what he always does, 18 points. He always shoots a ton of shots to get his numbers, 4 of 13, only 3 of 9 from 3. But he gets to the foul line. He was 7 of 8 there. Really good free throw game for him. But he also had 9 assists, and he was just picking and choosing how he just kind of outclassed, outsmarted, and outplayed Arkansas's backcourt. The Razorbacks got collectively what I think is their worst game from their top 3 scorers this year. We know we rule out Boogie Flam because he isn't a part of this team now in terms of being on the court. So their top 3 scorers who are playing and have been playing are obviously Adu Thero, DJ Wagner, and John L. Davis. That group combined for 21 points, and they were just a horrendous collection of shooting from the field, both inside and out. At the foul line, they combined for 5 of 7, but it didn't matter. But you couldn't have your top 3 scorers come in and lay eggs. This is Thero's second consecutive poor performance. Here's a guy now that is a high percentage field goal guy because he knows how to finish off drives, his bully ball drives. There's nothing finesse. There's nothing nuanced about it. There are no counters in his game. His game is get downhill and just plug his way, pound his way, blast his way to the basket. And he missed another dunk. He's done that in back-to-back games. He missed layups today. He's misjudging somehow what he needs to do to finish. He finally got a layup to go, and I thought he did a little too much on that just to get the lay-in. Put a little extra glitch in his move in his motion going up for no particular reason. It did go in. That was in the second half. But Thero with 10 points, disappointing game for him because he's Arkansas's best player. 2 of 6 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. It's not his game, but he did stick one. He did make 5 of 6 free throws, 3 rebounds. He did have 4 assists, a block, a steal. You know he's going to check some boxes. But 3 turnovers. I mentioned the poor shooting for Thero, Nelly, and DJ. I didn't go through all their specifics yet because it gets worse outside of Thero and DJ when we get to Nelly. But their turnovers, collectively, these guys had 10 of Arkansas' 17 turnovers. So here are your guys that you need to score, but they were too busy giving the ball back to the other team. You're going to credit A&M because of the way that that team plays and the way that they force you into certain spots. But there's ways to counter that. And that's where I thought Arkansas got out coached today. Great game plan coming in, but a poor job of getting guys to understand what it was going to take to attack A&M when they'd switch from man to zone. Arkansas was really slow in how to deal with all of that. And just lazy passes, driving to the wrong spots. I thought Arkansas had 7, 8, 9, 10 drives into soft spots in the defense where they had a shot if they just squared up, where they had anything from an 8 to 12, 14-foot shot. And instead, they would leave their feet with no plan and try to pass a soft-ass pass out back to the wing or somewhere else with nowhere to go with it. There were times where Arkansas got drives into the paint and passed to the wrong guy. Pat missed an easy layup or a potential layup and tried to make some awkward, misdirected pass that had no chance. So I thought there were some interesting things that Calipari was not able to figure out how to get Arkansas to clean some of that up because Arkansas otherwise found ways to get back into it. It wasn't like Arkansas didn't play hard. Arkansas battled on the glass. Arkansas hung tough on that glass. There were positives today. I went through a lot of the negatives because Arkansas's margin for error is thin. Arkansas's got to find a way to get at least 3 more wins, maybe 4. You're now 4-8 in the SEC, only 6 games to go. I think 3 probably has you on, obviously still on the bubble, and maybe on the right part of it, maybe as a play-in. But that's kind of dicey going to the SEC tournament because if you're one of those bottom tier teams going into that, that's neutral site. So anybody ranked outside the top 50 that you play in one of those early round games, you lose that. Now you've picked up a bad loss, and that might spoil you. Spoil what you got going. Arkansas might need 4 more wins. Depends on what they add and who it's against. This would have been a huge win for Arkansas because it would have been another top 15, top 20 net ranking road win to go with two others of those, plus another quad 1 road win against Texas, who's ranked in the 30s in that, which is solid. It's not like a team ranked 65 to 75 and on the road it counted a quad 1. I keep talking about that because I think there's different levels of quad 1 wins when you start really drilling down these resumes is what you want the search committee to do. Nearly 15 minutes in, 13, I don't know. I can't even see right now. We're getting close to the 15-minute mark. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. This is our post-game. Arkansas, valiant effort in terms of effort, but just a sloppy game. Some credit to A&M, but I think a lot of the finger pointing is at these Razorbacks because we've seen them do this. It doesn't matter who the opponent is or what style it is. We've seen them play down the competition against LSU, have some really, sloppy moments in that game and some, missed opportunities. I feel that same way today. Arkansas also had a spell of missing layups and close range shots. And some of those, it's kind of inexcusable. But just going through it, I mentioned the negatives. The big positives today to me were the freshmen. We're going to get into Billy Richmond because it's kind of a good and bad. Glass is half empty and half full. Carter Knox made some mistakes defensively, but overall his confidence on offense, taking good shots, and looking. He gets square to the basket now. He squares up, whether it's off the dribble for a pull up or just to catch and shoot. And he seems to understand how to be in flow and rhythm and not rush a shot or not hold on to it too long and then decide he wants to shoot. He's doing it with really good timing, but 17 points. He was 7 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds. He had a block, a steal, only 1 turnover. In a turnover-prone game, he didn't take bad shots, and he didn't actually have turnovers outside of 1 in 36 minutes. So Carter Knox was the best player for this team today. Big Z, who's been on a tear, 20-plus points in the 2 home games, split against Bama and LSU. This was a tough game for him at times. He only 20 minutes on the court. it wasn't foul trouble. It was the fact that he was having difficulty dealing with A&M's attacks in the paint and getting close to the basket. He did block some shots, but he also got worked a little bit. But Big Z ends up with 13 points, hit a couple of second half threes. I mean, his 3-point shooting skill now coming off the bounce on fadeaways and pulling up from 25 feet and just shooting over people. And he picked up his rebounding in this one, 6 rebounds. I mean, for him against this kind of competition, that's not bad. 4 blocks again. He's been having 4, 3, 4 block shot games. He had 1 assist, only 1 turnover for Big Z, but 20 minutes. He was efficient, 3 of 5. It's low volume because he was getting a lot of shots and a lot of points these last 2 games. Didn't quite work out that way today. Arkansas had a really tough time just getting good entry passes and clean angles to finish off. 3 of 5 for Z, including 2 of 3 from 3. 5 of 6 at the foul line. He can be a bit of a mystery shooting free throws. So good work there for his 13 points. I mentioned Thero's off night and his shooting, again, a back-to-back poor games for him. He only had 6 points against LSU, and I think in both games he was 2 of 6 from the field. So he's not capitalizing on some of those close-range shots. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to take a ton of shots. He just finishes at a high percentage usually and then finds ways to get to the free throw line, and that's how he cobbles together, typically gets to his 16 points. But Nelly Davis, man, here was a guy, when you looked at Arkansas's road wins over Kentucky and Texas, he put up good numbers, 18 points in one of those games, season high 24 at Texas, and he was a combined 7 of 14 from 3 while shooting overall efficiently, but 50% from 3 in those games. This was a different Texas team, but it wasn't like he was absolutely contested. He got some good looks. He was just off. I mean, he had a couple that rimmed out on him. He had, one that was an air ball. He had a poor game overall when you look at it shooting. 7 points, 3 of 13 from the field, only 1 of 7 from 3. And he didn't get to the foul line. That's something he's been doing a little bit more of in some of these games, and he couldn't even get to the foul line in this one. 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 assist, 4 turnovers. So I mentioned that Thero with his 3, 4 for Nelly, and then 3 for DJ. So that your veteran guys not only didn't score or shoot well, they really didn't take care of the basketball. They just had a really poor game. But the 4 turnovers in 28 minutes. Now, I will say this about Nelly. He was the only Razorback with a plus box score. He's been having some good box score plus games. He was +3, so when he was on the court, things were working a little better for Arkansas. Sometimes that's misleading, but if it's consistently shows up that way from game to game to game, there's something that's there when he's on the court. You needed more from him on offense, though. You could have probably survived with a somewhat poor shooting night. Maybe if he gets to the free throw line, maybe if he hits 1 more 3. There's ways that you're in this game with a chance to win at the end. Arkansas didn't give itself. Once it got to a 3-possession deficit down the stretch, Arkansas just didn't have enough answers, to get to that finish line first and find a way to overcome its own mistakes. DJ Wagner, one of the worst games I've seen from him. 4 points, 2 of 6 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3. Missed his only free throw attempt late. Game was academic at that point, but it would have cut it to 7. 2 rebounds, 2 assists. I mentioned the 3 turnovers, 1 steal in 28 minutes. The second consecutive game where he's played fewer than 30. He's been at one point in time, he led the SEC in minutes per game. Getting this late in the season, it's sometimes a positive maybe if you can get guys some rest and not just continue to chew up those, get into their conditioning at this late in the year on a small rotation like Arkansas has. If you can save them some, but a lot of that was foul trouble with him and Nelly. Each had 2 fouls in the first half and sat quite a while. Billy Richmond did some good things today, playing on the ball, attacking the basket. 6 points. He usually is efficient. 2 of 6 from the field, 0 of 1 from 3. 2 of 2 at the line. He made both his free throws. 6 rebounds. 2 assists, a steal, 4 turnovers. And some of those turnovers really showed his immaturity and the fact that he's not really a lead guard. Arkansas's by default kind of happened to go there. And he does some interesting things. I mean, compared to what the alternatives are and options are for Calipari, it may not be such a bad situation at times. But in this game against this aggressive defense, he made some bad decisions, some poor decisions there. Some of it was A&M funneling Arkansas's guards to the baseline. And this is where, after you have 2 turnovers, which Arkansas had early, one of them on Nelly Davis driving base, the left side, left his feet, had nowhere to go, tried to throw it to the opposite corner, and A&M was just waiting on it. Another one, Carter Knox tried to ball fake and drive in and got a reach around from behind and a ball poked away. One of the things that you do if you're going to draw a baseline, which is where they want you to go, if you're going to do that, you can counter that by just simply giving a hard stop and either pivot back, change your direction, fake your direction like A&M did to Arkansas playing the okey doke, and get their guys out of store and then turn back toward the basket. You've either got a clear path to lay it in, or if a defender comes and help, there should be someone diving in the middle in the paint and you get it to them for a score. But Arkansas, instead of that, were telegraphing everything, keeping their eyes straight ahead, not putting any counters or anything in there, and just leaving their feet with nowhere to go with it. To me, that's a timeout, and you say, Nelly, DJ, Carter, whoever's high on the ball, Billy, you guys just change up what you're doing. Don't leave your feet. Be a little bit more patient. Throw a counter in there. Get them out of sorts. Arkansas never did that. And again, Arkansas had, when it did attack the middle, had spots that had openings, and they would, instead of just squaring up and taking a short range shot, were trying to pass some weird pass that just wasn't there. And then again, the passes were just like little lazy balloons, just kind of floating in the air, waiting for someone to needle pop and take it. So, I'm being a little bit harsh, but Arkansas never made it the right adjustments there. Now, I will say this. There were times in the game where it looked like A&M might be getting on a roll and Arkansas would counter. Arkansas had a really nice run after falling down 7. DJ makes a pass to Thero, who's on the left wing and having a conversation, I guess, with John Calipari on the bench. The ball hits him, and A&M galls it up, goes in and dunks. Aggies up 7 or 9 at that point, and Arkansas calls a timeout, comes out of that, and goes on a run and made some plays in there. Arkansas actually won a couple of 50-50 ball scenarios to get a little run going and get right back in the game. Arkansas would later tie it. I know it was tied at 50 all at one point, but Arkansas could just never get out of its own way with these these self-inflicted wounds, mostly by way of turnovers today. And then I thought, again, guys like Wade Taylor and Garcia, it wasn't just the stats. It was the fact that the little things they were doing were just chess moves, and Arkansas was countering with a checkers move. Overplaying these guys. I mean, Garcia is a 20-something% three-point shooter, ball faking on corner threes, and Arkansas is just killing themselves to overplay it and close, leaving their feet, and now it's a numbers advantage, and he's picking and choosing how he's going to beat you. This isn't an overly skilled guy. He's just a smart player. Same with Wade Taylor. Wade Taylor got 7 of 8 free throws, and some of that was just craft, just waiting to feel a body and then falling down as he's taking a shot. So he's done 2 things. He not only drew a foul, but he got free throws out of it. Arkansas doesn't do that. Arkansas's players, when they get to the free throw line, it's just by honest, getting fouled, and they're not creating foul shots by anything other than just driving. Sometimes that's good enough. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying maybe, you'd like to see some guys add some stuff in there to make the game a little easier sometimes when things aren't going well, and manufacture trips to the line somehow. That's one thing Thero does do by getting his bully ball head of steam, is draw a lot of free throw attempts. Arkansas needs other backcourt players to figure out a way to do what Wade Taylor did today. Those are some of the things. By the way, we talk about this all the time, even when Arkansas is winning some of these games, losing some. They're getting just destroyed in bench scoring because Arkansas doesn't have much of a bench. Richmond plays well, but he's not a volume scorer. That's not who he is. He's a hustle energy guy, kind of a glue guy, effort guy. He's not a guy that's going to start lighting it up at all 3 levels. So outside of that, you've got Trevor Brazile, who hasn't really scored much in his career at Arkansas outside of a few stretches here and there. Certainly hasn't been productive in SEC play. Jonas Adu, who's showing a bit of a pulse, but not nearly enough for what Arkansas needs. And you only go 8 deep. This is A&M had 10 players who scored today. The Aggies had 10 different players score. And that tells you a lot about how when maybe one thing's not working, you come in with somebody else and you show a different look, a change of pace. The Wiltshire guy that came in off the bench and cooked Arkansas early with a three. Arkansas got lost in the defensive rotation. He's a guy shooting nearly 40% from three, and you lose touch with him. A&M calls a timeout after Arkansas hits a three to pull within two right before halftime, last offensive possession. Buzz Williams calls a timeout, gets Wiltshire in, and they get something set up so that he gets another three shot off. He hits it. Now A&M's up 5 at halftime. Arkansas had some good out of timeout stuff. They did some good stuff. They had an out of bounds play late in the shot clock I think it was first half, with about 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Pass into Thero, who left his feet. DJ Wagner came in as the inbounder. Two players jumped Thero to try to force a really tough shot as the clock expires, but he immediately passed back to Wagner, layup. That was a good play. Wagner got an uncontested layup. Not much came easy for Arkansas in this game, but Arkansas didn't make it easy on A&M in terms of getting a ton of easy shots. It was more of the turnovers that did lead to some fast break and easy stuff. But it was mainly, the key there was the turnovers, and a lot of them, again, unforced. And then just A&M at critical moments of this game playing chess when Arkansas is playing checkers. I described some of those plays. And that's the difference between a team that's been together forever and has only lost 5 games on the season. Now 9-3 in SEC play. Arkansas 4-8. So you see the difference there. I do think it's encouraging. I think one thing is that Arkansas continues to give itself a chance in games. Yeah, maybe down the last 2 or 3 minutes, they made the deficit just a little too big with all their collective problems, but they never caved in, and that's why you think there's still opportunities for this team to figure it out. You're probably going to lose at Auburn. I'm not saying Arkansas has no shot, but you're probably going to pick up another loss. You're 15-10, 4-8 right now. You're probably staring at 15-11, 4-9, but still will be on the bubble. Even if you lose, you'll still be on the bubble with chances. The thing that's worrisome is that you come back home and you start thinking, well, now we come home, but Arkansas's actually played better on the road for the most part in league play than they have at home. So there's nothing predictable about this team. This team still doesn't have an identity. If there is one, it's that the defense is the strength of the team. That's true. But then their 3 best wins, Michigan on December 10th, Kentucky on the road, and Texas on the road. All 3 had something in common. They were not tough teams, in my opinion, good teams, but not physically tough, not the kind of teams that are going to get into you and get Arkansas to get out of sorts. They just weren't. And they were the 3 games where Arkansas had really good offensive games. I mean, really good. So offense has been the strength of this team and its best wins. But if you look at the overall arching theme, the defense is ranked top 25 in KenPom efficiency for the whole season. They're outside, ranked out in the 80s, low 80s in offense. And a lot of these conference games have been kind of grind games. And, it's been hit and miss there. So I don't know what the formula is. Arkansas hasn't been good offensively at home. That was part of that point. Their best wins, they're great offensively, and it's away from home. So I don't know what to expect. Texas, again, not a tough team. You get them at Bud Walton Arena, but all bets are off there. Arkansas seems to play down to whatever's going on at home, and now it's just a dogfight getting to the finish. Arkansas has only been blown out twice in the SEC. There's been a lot of blowouts. Arkansas only twice. Those were road games, to open at Tennessee, then against Missouri. And so I don't know how many more blowouts, if any, Arkansas is going to suffer. That'll also help the net and how this team looks on paper when the committee's breaking everything down. But Arkansas needs more wins. That's bottom line. They can't just be close. They got to pick up more wins. So after Auburn on Wednesday, you come home from Missouri, who's a really good team. Again, one of the teams that's blown Arkansas out. That was in Columbia. Can Arkansas find a way to beat a top 20 team in net, a top 20 team in the AP poll? Then you get Texas. That would not be a quad 1 win, but it'd be a good quad 2 win if you could get it. Then you're on the road to South Carolina, who hasn't won a league game coming into today. But every really good team that plays in at South Carolina on the road, it always seems like the final score is a 1 or 2 possession margin. They're right there. They're right there. So even that doesn't feel like you go into it and go, well, there's a win. That's going to be tough. Vanderbilt's been ranked this year. It's a team that's beaten Tennessee and Kentucky. Vandy's got a good squad. It's a team that's also on the bubble. Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and Georgia. There's 5 SEC teams. Lenardi has 14 projected in, but 5 of those are bubble teams. When we were coming into the season, we weren't quite sure just how good the SEC was. We knew it was really good. We projected 9, maybe 10 teams in. Well, if you look at having 5 bubble teams, it looks like there are 9 that are probably secure and going to make it. Not all 5 of these that are on the bubble, I don't think are going to make it. So in other words, while there's a 14-team projection right now for the SEC, I don't think it's going to land there. I think maybe 12, possibly 13, but probably 12. And I wouldn't be shocked if it's only 11. So teams have work to do, including Arkansas. Arkansas's got to find a way. Then Arkansas finishes up. I just went through the next 5 games out of the last 6. Auburn on the road, Missouri, Texas at home, South Carolina and Vandy on the road. Then you come back against a really tough Mississippi State team, a Chris Jans coach team that's, has similarities to some of these, just grinding scenarios where they got veteran guys that know how to play his system and his style. So it's another one of those situations where it's going to be ugly, and Arkansas is just going to find a way to win another ugly game more than likely. So there it is. I mean, Arkansas's got, to me, going into the SEC tournament, they must win 3 more. They'd probably be on the correct part of the good part of the bubble going into the SEC tournament. But then where are you ranked in league play? What early game do you have? Do you have a potential for a bad loss there? When you start looking at net, and then how does that shift? If that were to happen, if you're bounced in your first SEC tournament game, how would that shift? So at the end of the day, is this team capable of winning 4 out of the last 6? I don't know about that. It did win 4 of 6 before today's game, but again, can they be more than just a win 1, lose 1 scenario after Auburn? Which I'm not going to say is a guaranteed loss, but man, that's if you look at how Arkansas's done against the top teams in the league. Weren't competitive at Tennessee, weren't competitive at Missouri, very competitive in every other game. So they give themselves a chance, I guess. I'm not sure about Auburn, but after that, I think every game's winnable. It's just does Arkansas get done when it needs to get done? Win 4 more, Arkansas is a lock. Win 4 of the next 6. I don't think it matters what happens in the SEC tournament. Don't win 4 of these last 6. I think it's a no-brainer. Win only 3, and my guess is they're on the cut line, probably on the good part of it, but maybe not sure, maybe needing to do more work in the SEC tournament, or not take a bad loss in the SEC tournament. Put it that way, to survive and advance to the big dance. Nobody envisioned this and wanted to be in this situation coming into this season. No one foresaw it being like this. Thinking top 15-ish ranked team, projected top 3 or 4 in the SEC. But these are who these Hogs are. And you see the difference again in a tight game, what really good teams do to find a way to win, and a team still trying to figure out how to get out of its own way at times. If we beat Auburn, we're in. That's a comment. Thank you for the comment. No, that's not enough. I mean, it increases your margin for error. You beat the number 1 team on the road and you add another quad 1 road win like that, your resume is outstanding. But I don't know that that's enough if you then dropped 4 of the next 5. In this Arkansas team, there's nothing predictable about it other than it's going to kind of gift some things. This was a game of gaffes and gifts, and one team took advantage of that. Arkansas took advantage of some of A&M's mistakes, but it just wasn't enough to get over that. I didn't go through this. I'm going to give I will do Adu's. I don't think I gave his stats. Maybe I did. 4 points today, 1 of 1 from the field, 2 of 4 at the foul line, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, a steal, and he played his heaviest dose of minutes. I think 19 minutes, if I read it right. Trevor Brazil, 0 for 2 from the field, both 3-point attempts, had a couple of rebounds and a block. But he was no match for Garcia. I thought he and Adu and Big Z even Adu Thero, nobody had an answer for Garcia. And Thero had another kind of a puzzling game. I mean, I'm not saying he's regressed. He's just had back-to-back poor games. And for some reason, he's overthinking the finish on these dunks and layups. And he's getting a little bit wild in some of his closeouts. And he's always played like that bull in a china shop. There's no finesse to his game. I mean, none. So you just need him to reel it in a little bit here and there. You don't want to take away from what he does well by putting a governor on him all the way. But you'd like to see a little more discipline from him at times. It's easy to nitpick when you lose, right? This is a really good A&M team. And this is an Arkansas team that when you look at it, is really competing well. That doesn't mean they're competing smart all the time, but man, they got fight. And they look like a tournament team at times. These last 2 games, they haven't. These last 2 games, they haven't looked like an NCAA tournament team to me in terms of things connecting. And you need to be that kind of a team, I think, to in this tough of a league to gather more wins. To gather more wins, you're going to have to connect better. Arkansas was really starting to connect in some of these games, and they're doing just enough to stay in there. I've said it from day one. This is not a deficit of talent. People maybe want to think that, and I've heard that. Is A&M more talented than Arkansas? I don't think so. They got more depth. They got a group that's been together forever, a team that was an NCAA tournament team last year. They got advantages. Arkansas's got pieces that had tournament success they brought in, but, I mean, they haven't been what's expected at all. Davis has played better. Adu, relative to what he gave you for the most of the SEC in these last couple of games, has given you a little bit more, but Jonas Adu, but I mean, it's nowhere near what Arkansas really needs, and yet Arkansas is finding a way to give itself a chance to be an NCAA tournament team. And I think that's relevant. I think that's because there's talent on this team. Carter Knox was playing with 5-star swagger at times a day. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't perfect. He had a reach in off the weak side. I mean, just silly foul that sent Wade Taylor to the free throw line. He had another play where Taylor, I think somebody got leverage on him. Maybe it was Garcia, and he pushed him in the back and didn't even make a play on the ball, and he got an and one opportunity. I think it was maybe Garcia, somebody there in the second half. So he had mistakes as well, but he played with some 5-star swagger. And again, Billy Richmond, the turnovers were bad, but he was doing other things that he was telling us, I belong out here. Those guys, if they stick around, man, that's something really to add. When you start talking about Darius Acup Jr., Malik Thomas, Isaiah Seeley, you're starting to talk about 1, 2, and 3 and just being loaded. And I don't know when I look at that group looking ahead, if I'm John Calipari, I'm going into the portal and I want to go find at least 2 guys that are knockdown shooters, guys that are high percentage shooters, and that's the quality of their game. You're going to have to change a little bit. You're going to have to add something to because you're going to have guys that are going to be able to create plenty. Carter Knox has just figured out a really nice zone. He added some wrinkles today because his shot creation, he's been kind of a catch and shoot, maybe drive hard off a good driving angle, off good movement, because he's picking and choosing when to take it and get into the basket. But today he had a couple, 2 or 3 nice 2 dribbles to a spot, pull up, and the stroke was nice, confident, square, got to those good spots. He's growing as a player. I didn't go through the overall team stats. Let's just do that now. I'm trying to wrap up here. I'm not going to give you the hour like I tend to talk myself into. But let's look at the final stats here. Arkansas 20 of 48 from the field, 41.7%, 7 of 21 from 3, 33.3%, 14 of 19 at the foul line, 73.7%. A&M, not much better, 24 of 57 from the field, 42.1%. Took 9 more shots. They were a little bit better on the offensive glass. We're going to get to that, but it was all those turnovers. So you got more shots and you made 4 more field goals. And by the way, you won by 8 points. 6 of 20 from 3 for the Aggies. Arkansas a little better there. 30% for the Aggies. 15 to 21 at the foul line. 71.4%. The Aggies made 1 more from the foul line. But, Arkansas did foul late, trying to stop things. So it was almost a dead heat there. I thought there were some early plays where A&M maybe got away with some hard contact on what should have been foul calls. But overall, it was a physical game, and I don't blame any of this on officiating. To me, this was a well-called game after the early going, the way I saw it. So we went through the shooting numbers there. Rebounds, A&M was +3, only +3, 35-32. +4 offensive rebounds, 12-8. Second chance points, right? A&M's the leading offensive rebound team in the country, but also leader in second chance points. Arkansas was +2 in second chance points, 9-7. The game plan, how to use your use your guys, and how to play and battle, that was all fine. It was just the other part, what we've talked so much about, the turnovers, which was a colossal loss. I mean, you had a small margin win there, which is better than the alternative. You would have gotten beat 20+ today if you'd also gotten clobbered on the glass. Simple as that. You could have gotten destroyed. So you did something right. It's not all negative. It's just that you got to. I thought there were moments in this game where there were certain trends developing on Arkansas's poor decision making and offense where they should have made adjustments. And I don't know what Calipari told them. I don't know what he said in the post-game press conference, but they didn't make the adjustments. All right. I'm having to put these on because I can't read my writing. Turnovers, I mentioned it, +7, -7 for Arkansas, 17-10, -15 in points off turnovers, 22-7. There's your ball game. A&M ended up +12 in points in the paint, 34-22. But again, a lot of that's what you're getting after getting those turnovers. Some of that you got in transition, where A&M did win fast break, 10-4. But when you're winning the turnovers by that much, you're going to get out in transition. Arkansas was unable to cash in on A&M's turnovers. Only 4 in transition. Arkansas was thought to be a really good transition team in non-conference. Hasn't really played out that way. Bench, A&M +15, 25-10. Stills, A&M +4, 11-7. Arkansas has another game where has a big advantage in the block shots, 8-4. Again, Z had half of Arkansas's total, and he matched A&M's total. And assists, both teams had 14 assists. And good assist numbers because they didn't make a lot of field goals, 20 for Arkansas, 24 for A&M. And that's the thing with A&M. You've got to make the extra pass because of how they defend. But then when Arkansas attacked, you don't make an extra pass when you've got a spot that you got to where there's an opening and you're, again, 8 to 14 feet from the basket. Guys like Nelly and Thero and DJ and Billy, and Billy's got a decent mid-range shot. And they'd get there and they just wouldn't turn their head and square up and take what was there. Instead, they left their feet off balance. Now you don't want them shooting because they're going to have to now turn their head off balance and they're trying to find somebody. Well, A&M's just licking their chops sitting down on that, aren't they? All right, 46 minutes in, I'm finally going to sign off. If there's anything that breaks in recruiting, anything we need to talk about, I'm going to jump back in here. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. Arkansas loses at number 8, Texas A&M, 69-61. Until next time, thank you for being here. We'll see you then.